What are the benefits of social media? A lot of people out there would say not a whole lot. That social media is self-indulgent and vapid and doesn't really provide much to society, and that they have much better things to be doing than scrolling a feed and liking strangers' photos. Truth is, social media, when used the right way, can make a dramatic impact on this world. For today's guest, Kaylin Elsbury, it literally saved her life. I'm not even kidding. Literally. In my conversation with Kaylin today, you're going to learn what it's like to live with cystic fibrosis. You'll also learn subtle mindset shifts that'll help provide you with even more motivation and inspiration than just purpose alone. And most importantly, how social media can make a huge impact, especially if you use it the right way. My name is Corrie and I'm a life and business coach who helps survivors find purpose through leading value-driven businesses. Before I was coaching, I actually worked in the business world as a marketing SVP, and I am a longtime veteran in digital media, including social media. Because of my skill set that I learned in my former profession, I was able to build my coaching following, all the different social media accounts that you guys follow me on today, in less than a year to over 40,000 people. So I know a thing or two about social media, and Kaylin does too, and we're really, really excited to get to share that with you today. Before we dive into today's episode, if you really, really like entrepreneurial and motivational content, be sure to hit subscribe. That way you'll be updated the next time a new episode airs. Kaylin Elsbury was born with cystic fibrosis and was initially told she was not going to live past the age of 14. At 15, she slipped into a month-long diabetic coma, and doctors believed that she would have permanent brain damage. Today, at the age of 31, Kaylin is now a sought-after social media marketer, motivational speaker, best-selling author, and NLP coach. Ready to hear how social media literally saved Kaylin's life by getting her access to a $300,000 drug? Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out how. I'm so excited to have Kaylin on today to share her inspirational story with you today. And now it's time for the story to begin. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Corrie Lowe Show. I am super excited to share with you my guest for today. I've got Kaylin Elsbury on with us. What's up, Kaylin?
Hey.
Hey. So I always start off every single episode with the same question. So you are in the lucky hot seat today to receive it. And that's, what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so for me, it was very entertaining. I grew up in rural Iowa. All over the place. So right now I'm 31 and I believe I've moved 24 times, to give you an example.
Wow.
So I was always the weird kid, which is still legit. Like I always had to, and it was interesting. So it'd be like rural Iowa, then big city Iowa, then inner city public schools in Savannah, Georgia, and then country Georgia. So like I've had this multitude of backgrounds because of my dad's job. He's in sales. And it was interesting to me to just it seemed like every other year I was having to start completely over. It was a great childhood. My brother and I got along about as well as siblings could. Like, you kind of want to kill him, you kind of want to love him. It's a very complicated mixture.
Mm-hmm. I have a younger brother myself, so I get it.
Yeah, like, yeah, he's great, right? As you want to, good times. But no, so I moved around a ton. I would say it was a very normal childhood besides that. My parents are still together. It's like 50 years marriage. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very starty over-y.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So going from your childhood into like your teenage years and young adult years, how did that kind of progress for you?
I mean, as far as like going into it, one of the things that I think my parents always did right, they did a ton right. In fact, like that's why I'm not having kids, because I could never do better than my parents. But one of the things that always stood out for me is it was a very non-tolerant household of excuses. So there was a lot of dynamics going on where we could have easily caved into, the pressures or the excuses or giving up or not doing something. And my mom and dad, first of all, my dad had all these sayings, and one of them was, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And so it's like, oh, okay. So you've always got to be thinking proactively about whatever it is you want. You want to go on that field trip in a couple of months? Fine, you've got to work for it now. And so it was always that kind of the tough love side of it. Mm-hmm. So transitioning into adulthood, I became incredibly feisty and independent. and that still hasn't left. And that there's that attitude and that self-confidence within that says, I can do whatever the thing is that I need to do. I just have to prove it to myself, and then I can prove it to whoever I need to prove it to. And it's a very interesting way to bring everything about in full circle.
Sure. No, definitely sounds it. So how did growing up in that kind of an environment kind of set you up for success as you went through those years?
Yeah, I mean, it really, like, even now, so we all have down days, right? We can admit that. We're, like, some days just suck, right? And so when that happens, my parents taught me how to, like, have that reset where you're allowed to be human, you're allowed to freak out all you want, but there comes a time where you have to just suck it up and deal with it and stop the pity party and go towards the action. And it's interesting, now that I speak all over the world, I have this thing where it's like, so many people care about the why. And I'm going off on a tiny tangent, but like, trust me on this.
That's fine.
So I'm going off on, so everybody's talking about the why. And thank you, Simon Sinek, like, beautiful book. We love understanding our whys and what drives us and what our purpose is. But I have this such hatred towards that word, because to me, why something matters is not the point. It's the how. I care so much about the how and so little about the why. So I was on a coaching call a couple of days ago, and the guy's struggling with his business. And one of the things is, he's like, I just don't understand why these things keep happening to me. And I go, that's a dumb question. You need to say, how can you prevent them from happening to you? Or what is it that you need to learn to prevent that energy coming into you? And so I think that all stems, it's funny, I've never put these two together until this. Good job. And so now I'm just sitting here thinking through it, like, even when we were going through some serious health issues as a child and all the moving, it was never like, why does my parents have to move all the time? Why am I so sick? Why do I live in hospitals? It was always like, how do I make the most of it? It's such a different transformative question to me. And it totally translates into every way I look at the world now.
Right. No, it makes sense. So as you just kind of alluded to, health issues, as a child and being able to use this, can you share a little bit on that? Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, totally. I was born with something called cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic disease. It's not contagious. And basically the sodium salt channels in my body, to put it super simple, don't work. So my lung function, my lungs, my entire body is actually riddled with mucus that's thick and sticky like a smoker's lung. And so it prevents any food from being digested. And my lungs are constantly full of infected, sticky, thick mucus like a smoker's lung that I can't cough out. And it is prone to all kinds of infections, things like bacteria from soil, to give you an example. And I have to basically go in every couple of months to the hospital for 2 to 3 weeks at a time to get my lungs, we call it a tune-up, like a clean-out system. So that way my pancreas, my lungs, and everything work.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So everything you had just shared before too, as far as, it's not about the why, it's about the how, makes a lot of sense, especially if that's your life, going through. So how do I manage this, right? So how did you manage that, through your younger years?
Yeah. And so I didn't, my parents did.
Okay.
They gave me enough feistiness to understand. So I'll give you an example of context of that. I believe it was kindergarten. In some of my speeches, they say first grade, like, whatever, just go with the big picture here. But I believe it was kindergarten, and all of us kids at recess, we had to run a mile around the perimeter of the schoolyard for PE class, right? And in my head, it was a mile. It could have just been run around the fence. Well, I'm a slower runner, like even to this day, like 50 minutes, 3 miles, like go me. And I was nervous and scared because I didn't want all the kids to make fun of me because of my cough. Which, by the way, it's horrid. Like, don't you ever hang out with a cougher? You're in bed with your fiance and he's got the flu. It's like, stop it. It's gross. And so I didn't want the kids to make fun of me. And I went to the nurse's office and I was like, hey, can I get out of running the mile? She calls my mom. My mom goes, you don't have to run this mile, but it's up to you if you want to live. Because coughing gets rid of the mucus, which gets rid of the infections. And physical exercise is a huge component of why I'm so healthy today. And I remember thinking, like, she's right. We're not all dealt the same cards in life, but if I want to live, I have to run.
Right. Wow. Powerful story. So
they let me do whatever I wanted to do, but you have to understand that whatever path you choose, there's consequences. And they were very upfront about that.
So in a way, they kind of helped you frame your priorities in a way.
Totally.
From like a young age. It's like, okay, yeah, you could do this, but if you don't, here are the consequences, and ultimately you choose.
And I remember it's so funny, like, my brother, he's feisty, right? And he was like not pro wrestler, like state wrestler, which was a big deal in Iowa. And he would always like beat me up, not like torturous, like abusive situation. I'm sure some were borderline, but I would just scream and I would cry and I'd be like, Mom, Brad's hitting me again. And, you know, at one point somebody asked, like, why don't you stop her brother from like hurting her? And she goes, because every time she screams and she laughs and she coughs, it's actually saving her life. And she's like, and so, you know, you think about it, if you're screaming, that's the lung function. And so it was a really interesting dynamic. And I'm not saying my brother was torturous by any means, like, but I remember he was so mean to me, and now I'm kind of secretly thankful. Still hate you, little bro, but you know, you get the point.
Hopefully he's watching.
He doesn't even follow me on Instagram, so I had to yell at him last week. I was like, follow me.
How dare he? I don't think my family doesn't either. So, so moving on, you know, throughout your life, I know at a very, very young age, you became a recruiter and you're very, very successful. So tell us a little bit about that.
Recruiting's fun. So I was a recruiter in like we call it like a boiler room, but that's probably a little dramatic scenario, where it was a bunch of agency recruiters, and we would always try to place medical nurses, like there's any other nurse, come on, like med assistants, physicians, pharmacists. And I started out as a temp recruiter, then I got promoted to perm, finding permanent placements. And then I actually wound up being in charge of all corporate recruiting for the CEO. He had 2 different companies. So I would do the corporate recruiting for both of his companies. And it was a very fast-paced, commission-hungry, like, let's do this now type environment. And I loved it. Like, I loved it. It was. What
was your favorite part?
The competition. I remember, and we're friends to this day, but I remember, excuse me, so yeah, I cough all the time. There's this guy named Emerson, and he's gonna watch this, I guarantee it. And we got into a fight over like whose candidate got placed at the hospital or whatever. And we had to like go to the boss's office, right? And we had to compete and say, like, the boss gave us each like a minute. He's like, okay, tell your side of the story, tell your side of the story. And the boss had to pick who the best person was to get the candidate. It had nothing to do with who actually placed the candidate, but you could tell a better story on the spot to place that person to get the commission. I won. Wow. Emerson and I didn't talk for like 2 weeks after that. But like, I loved that, you know, it's not necessarily about like the sale, it's about the hunt. And that was the blast.
Right. No, that makes so much sense. Cause I know for, you know, I've been in business, I'm a 3rd generation entrepreneur. So I was born and raised like all things business. And the one thing I've always noticed is about successful salespeople in particular, they have to have that specific like spark or drive for competition.
Oh yeah.
That kind of like keeps them motivated to do it. Cause not everybody's cut out for sales. Yeah. And that's kind of like a distinguishing factor right there. So
it's so funny. There's that whole like community over competition. I'm not in competition with anyone. I'm in competition with myself. And that's great for bumper stickers, but real life, like, I'm competing against you. Like, I will figure this out. And it's not a negative. Like, if you beat me, I am kind of happy for you.
Kind of.
Like, you know, like, you go, girl. You know what it is? It's not necessarily happiness. It's mad respect. And then we're going to be friends because you beat me at something. Because like now I'm like, okay, I respect this girl. Right. But like for the most part, it's not community over competition. Like, how are we duking this out? And are we going to be friends in the end? Like, that's what I care about.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. So I know in your recruiting, you're very successful. So what were some of your keys to success?
Well, so funny. This is the saying that we have even today with my business. A sense of urgency is the key to success. Everything now, nothing later. That's the biggest one. We've translated that into what we call the shark mindset, right? But that's like, you got to live life all in. Like, if I'm on this podcast with you, I'm not checking my other emails. I'm not doing anything. Like, I am all into this moment. If I don't think I can be all in, I'm going to cancel it. Like, we're only doing things all in. Proactive, always be thinking a couple steps ahead. Like, what's the point of this podcast? Why are we doing this? Where's this going? You know, is this a chick I can vibe with? Not just like, nah, we'll see what happens. There's that intentionality, finding a way. So if it didn't work, which it didn't at first, the first 5 minutes was a nut job because of myself. It's like, I will figure out a way to make this work. Like, I'm gonna be 10 minutes late, but I will figure this out.
Right.
And then that sense of urgency is the key to success. Everything now, nothing later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So you figured out this framework.
Yeah.
Right. And So where did you go from being a recruiter, right? Like what was next up for you?
Next up was filing for disability because my health had tanked that bad.
Oh my
For
goodness.
a while, the nurses would even come to the office and they'd access my IVs at the office, and I'd have my IV drip bags. It just got to be so much for a couple variety of issues. I was hospitalized 6 to 7 months out of every year. We're talking lung function 34%. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't really do much, and the saddest day of my life by far was letting go of my corporate identity. And so I was disabled and literally for a few years after that. And I just focused on my health, and there was really nothing after that. Like, it was a very dark time.
Sure.
Like, optimistic, but dark.
So during that time, you know, when you had to focus on your health, do you have any kind of like tips or strategies for somebody who may be going through that right now that'll kind of help you get through it?
Yeah, I mean, that framework we talked was still everything to me.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it also came down to every day I did something athletic. And athletic means different things to different people. Right now, it's running, right? And lifting weights. But back then, it was, can I walk around the hospital halls? You know, can I get one step further? Can I do push-ups in my bed? You know, instead of watching TV sitting up, can I like lean up and just like leverage my abs a little bit? You know, so health means something different to everybody. And especially when you put fitness into that category. So that was the biggest thing. And I actually enrolled into like college courses online to study what is it called? It's NASM CPT. So I became a certified personal trainer from the hospital, just so I could learn how the body works, because that was my job. It was no longer recruiting. It was, how do I stay alive? And that was transformative for me.
Wow.
Like, that was my job.
Mm-hmm.
It just paid really little.
Right. Well, no, I mean, it paid off big time because, you know, your life is priceless.
Yeah.
So definitely
Well,
worth
it
the time.
paid off, but like the government checks weren't cutting it in sunny San Diego. Like,
Right.
but I had to look at it as a job to get through that period.
Right. No, and that's a great way to look at it. So that was actually going to bring me to my next question. So during that time frame, I mean, because I know a lot of people, they try to reframe their thinking from being like negative to positive. Were you just naturally more positive about it and thinking about it like, this is my job and this is what I have to do and I don't have a choice? Or what was your mindset like during that time?
It's so funny. So, I mean, I'm known as being a motivational speaker, right? Which is hilarious because I think I'm more of a demotivational speaker because it's not about being positive. To me, it was like, do this, you have to do. I don't know if I can curse, so I bleep that out. But do what you have to do. Like, if you weren't doing anything but trying to live, then you try to figure out how to live one more day. And you just go, you get hyper focused on that one event. So for me, I was never like, oh, I'm going to survive. I'm going to be a speaker. I always had dreams and goals, don't get me wrong. But you can't hope away a dire situation. You can't positively, and law of attraction is cool, but like, it is missing that how component. Like, if you don't act, you can't just sit there and dream up a better life and read all these positive quotes on Instagram and hope your life's going to turn out. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was very real. I was like, okay, I've got 3 years left. Cool. What am I going to do with that? I want to be a personal trainer. And then believe it or not, I actually became a Zumba instructor for 1.5 years. I wasn't a good one because I wasn't fit enough to get through my own classes, but I knew how to get interviewed. So I'd get hired and then I'd get fired like that day.
Oh, wow.
It was great. Fantasticness. And that became the goal,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So like, I just had a really short-term micro goal because I was preparing, like, okay, I got 3 years left, 3 to 5 years. Cool. Let's just live this.
Right. Just like live it to the fullest and do what you want to do when you want to do it.
Realism. It wasn't fluffy bumper stickers.
Sure. No, I get it. So how did you transition from, you know, having your health failing you to where you are today?
So there was this drug that came out in the market, priced at the great discount of $300,000. And the only thing I know, so I'm feisty as ever, right? And I've got the sales background, but the other thing I'm amazeballs at is social media. So I got on social media and I went on this epic rant. We created a hashtag, like hashtag don't kill Kaylin, because on disability, the insurance company and the drug company couldn't figure out who was going to pay for $300,000 a year. Lo and behold, the efforts wound up getting me on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Wow.
And now I have the drug. Yay! So I'm only hospitalized like maybe a month to 2 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
My lung function goes anywhere from still 35 to 74%. But that was the transformative process, is getting access to this drug.
Oh, wow. And social media helped you do it.
Oh, social media. Social media saved my life, you know, like, which is the most millennial thing to say ever. It is, like, every speaking opportunity, every coaching client, every book sale. When I wrote the book, everybody I interviewed from the book I found on social. You know, I developed these relationships. And when you're in the hospital, it's not like I can go to networking events. All I have to do is play on Instagram all day.
Right.
Eventually, you get really good at things. Some people chose video games and Impractical Jokers. Untrue. I chose Instagram and LinkedIn. And so I kind of built out the business like that, not understanding that it could be a potential business decision in the future.
Right. Well, that's interesting. It ties into kind of the next question I wanted to ask you. So, you know, as far as like using your prior experience and everything that you've learned through social and through, you know, everything that you've been through, how are you using that now to help others today?
Yeah. So really it's called Shark School. And I teach personal brands like coaches, speakers, realtors, how to leverage social media to get clients. And we do it through that framework of the 4 things we talked about earlier. And on one hand, it seems so shallow because it's like, no, we're teaching people Instagram. But like, there was this chick, and I'm going to tell this real quick story. There's this chick named Kaylin Slevin. I love her because of her name. And she's like 18 years old. She wanted to be a model, but she's too short. And all these agencies turned her down. So what she did was she just got really great at Instagram. She got like 600,000 followers. And now these modeling agencies are coming to her. And it's like, wow, how cool is it that with like our friggin' phones now, we can transform our entire life. Like if we have a goal and we want to achieve it, we can now achieve it with our phones. Like this is insane. And so, you know, there's coaches who are like really trying to make that first, you know, let's just even say 4-figure months, and they're struggling and they don't know what they're doing. This is the lifeline that feeds their family now. And on one hand, yeah, I play on Instagram, I take selfies and make money, cool. But on the other hand, like there's so much more to it than just that.
And especially to add to what you're saying, I think especially if you have a, you know, message that really needs to get out there. I mean, if anybody had asked me, I started all of my coaching accounts, and a lot of folks I don't think realize this, especially if you started following me recently, but majority of my coaching accounts for my business, so not my personal Facebook or whatnot, but what I use for my business, I started less than a year ago.
Good for you.
But with the message though, by being very, very clear on what it was I was trying to accomplish, why I wanted to accomplish it, and why people should pay attention, it helped kind of draw the right audience to what I'm doing. And I think that's the part that a lot of people I think miss with the social media, because it's a tool, right, to be able to grow your business, but you have to put the right kind of input into the tool to get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's called, you know this, but for the listeners who don't, it's called content seeding. So you put in your content on the type of audience you're trying to seed. And some of y'all, you can have 30,000 followers, but like, I have this saying, actually, like, let me back up. I have this saying, it's like, you don't need 10,000 followers to make $10,000. You just need one, and you need the right one. So like the rise of the micro influencer is fascinating, because I had a time on my Instagram when it was 15,000 followers. Cool. LinkedIn was my first baby, so I've got way more on that platform. But on Instagram, and I'd never made $1. 15,000 followers, nobody bought from me. Like that influencer last month who 2.4 million followers could sell a $30 t-shirt, right? I trimmed my account down. I've got about 9,200, something like that. Some posts get 30 likes, some get 1,000, who cares? But the point is they're hyper targeted and the content matches what they're looking for. And now it's been able to monetize. And it's so crazy to me. It's fascinating to watch and learn from.
Right.
Like the way people can change your life.
It's changed my life dramatically. Yeah. And I love getting to hear your story and how it changed, like literally saved your life.
It totally did.
Too. That's incredible.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. And yeah, since we started talking about this podcast, I started following you, and your stuff's on point. Like, you know what you're doing. And it's no wonder that you can say that you built your business off socials also.
Mm-hmm. Oh, social is a huge part of what I do. But I mean, part of it too, and this is coming from my business coaching side. If you don't like social, I don't think it's necessarily the right marketing platform for you.
No.
There's a lot of people that they excel with face-to-face. So networking, for example, would be a better, opportunity for that. Public speaking, going to conferences, that could be a better marketing avenue for you than social. If you absolutely despise opening your Facebook account and liking friends' photos, you're not going to want to do it for your business.
Yeah.
Right. So your heart has to kind of be in it. You have to enjoy it, and you have to really relate to the people on the other side of your message and be able to interact with them, because it goes two ways. You can't have just like a one-sided broadcast and not get that kind of interaction and actually participate with the people who are following you on your platform.
Absolutely. And that's where most people go wrong, is it's advertisements, or just like so it's not communication. They think, oh, because I can post, I can control the content. No, like I don't post for me, I post for you. Right. And I think that's the difference that most people don't. And it's a hard switch. So yeah, you're exactly right. I love that you said that too. Cause like, I won't take people, like my first question when they talk to me about Shark School is, do you love social media and do you want to leverage it? Cause if you don't, you do you, boo boo. Like, I don't need you. Like you find your path. I'm not it. And go team.
Right. Same
we win.
All right. So Kaylin, what would you want someone who's currently experiencing what you've been through in life, whether it be, illness or other things, to know to help them get through what they're experiencing right now?
To know is so tricky. Embrace the uncertainty. I don't think I've ever said that before, but like, our world is nothing more than a collection of what we see it as, which sounds super meta and bumper stickery. I get it. I'm an NLP coach by training. So, you're welcome for that one. But the reality is like, if you're going through a tough time and you're telling yourself how tough it is, it's only going to get tougher. Whereas if you think, okay, what do I got to do to transform this period or to make the most out of this period of my life? Because it's all a period. And for some of you, if you're in the tough time, it's going to get worse. For some of you, it's going to get better. Some of you, it's going to get dramatically better. Even though these life situations happen, and it could take us in either direction, one of those three options, just knowing that you've controlled the best of your ability, when whatever option happens, it's going to give you that peace of mind. So when I was really sick, it's very likely I was going to be on the lung transplant list. I had to control it to the best of my ability, because then no matter what happens, at least I knew I gave it my all. So embrace that uncertainty. Beautifully said. Yeah.
So Kaylin, how could our listeners and viewers find you?
The number one way is probably www.misklyn.com.
Awesome.
And that links to everything.
To everything. Yeah, I'm the same way. I am Corrie Lowe. Definitely. Yeah, that's branding on point. Makes things easier. So I will make sure that we link up to you in the show notes, share your website, all the places that our viewers and listeners can find you. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and to share your story.
Thank you for having me.
And there you have it. If there's anything you take away from my conversation with Kaylin today, I truly hope it's this. Having a why is important, but the how is just as important. Because as Kaylin mentioned during our conversation today, you can't just hope away a dire situation. You have to actually figure out a strategy and know how you're going to dig yourself out. Also, you always have a choice, even if that choice isn't ideal. The way that Kaylin's parents set things up for her while she was growing up was, no, she didn't have to run the mile if she didn't want to, but she could let her lungs fill up with fluid and she could die. Pretty dramatic examples there, but she speaks the truth. We always have a choice, and it's up to us to determine which of the choices presented to us is right for us, even if not all the choices are the best. When you're battling a life-threatening illness, much like Kaylin did, staying alive becomes your full-time job. I really found Kaylin's story absolutely inspirational in how she really dug in and took control of her knowledge of her health by learning how to become a certified personal coach, and how she's using that education that she learned even today to keep herself alive. I really felt that was impactful, and I hope that you did as well. And also, social media can transform lives, especially if you use it strategically. If you have a message out there that you are dying to get out, it's important to be able to do so in a thoughtful and strategic and clear manner. And when you do so, the right audience will find you, because ultimately, other people who share the same message as you, they're all out there. They're just waiting for the message to cross their path so that they can engage with it. Social media helps you do that. So what was your favorite takeaway from today's episode? Definitely be sure to leave a comment or tag me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I would absolutely love to know what you thought, and just may share your comments on a future episode or post. Are you ready for even more inspirational or motivational content? Definitely be sure to check out my website, www.corrielow.com, and sign up for my email list. Every single week, you'll receive tips, tools, resources, and interviews designed to help you lead a more emotionally fulfilling life in business. I look forward to connecting with you there.